Israel is at war with Hamas at the moment in Gaza, and then off to the north
Hmm.
in Lebanon,
Right.
they're also fighting Hezbollah.
Hmm.
What are your general feelings toward this whole situation?
Um, I would say in a perfect scenario, in a perfect world, a ceasefire would be, um, what I would hope for. However, it's looking like Israel just continuously keeps bombing and basically doing ethnic cleansing and genocide of both Lebanon now and Palestine as well. And I know that this particularly has been going on for several years, like decades, correct? So my general thoughts are obviously that I'm very against Israel. I am not pro-Israel whatsoever. I'm very pro-Palestine and Palestinian individuals. I've seen all of the footage. I've seen dead bodies being pulled from underneath the rubble. I also saw that Israel has like an official Twitter account where they've been posting things that I would regard as propaganda, like missile strikes and airstrikes, and no death is okay ever in any scenario or situation. However, I am confused how now that it's being turned on them and their home is being, damaged and airstriked and people are dying, now it suddenly matters to American people, at least Americans in general, like that are not leftist or liberal leaning or democratic leaning, seem to align more with Israel because it's the motherland. Um, if I don't know, I feel like I am not expressing myself as properly.
Are you talking about like the religious Holy
The
Land?
religious Holy
Okay.
Land, and also I know that because it's considered the religious Holy Land, that they have felt entitled to occupy that space that is not rightfully theirs and belonged to Palestine before.
So, in this situation now, we have about 9 million Israelis in the area that is Israel. And then in Gaza and the West Bank, there's about 5 million, 4 or 5 million Palestinians.
Right,
They're obviously not getting along very well.
right.
Where do we go from here?
See, that's a difficult question because it's gotten to a point where Palestinians obviously clearly don't want anything to do with Israelis or Israel as in general. I don't like to refer to Israel as a country because I don't think it is. I think that they have done the same thing as other colonizer countries that you consider and have just taken over the Middle East and are continuously trying to push because their agenda is more focused on, like everyone else is Arabic. They speak Arabic languages. In Israel, it's more like English. I would say the classification of skin color is more predominantly white as opposed to all of the surrounding countries. And back to your question, sorry, about where do we go from here? I honestly don't know because I don't believe Israel is ever going to admit that they are in a position where they are doing a genocide because they feel just since all of the Hamas stuff, right? But this has been going on since way, 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 way before Hamas did the airstrike. And
Yeah, I guess we can ask this question. So, what do you think Israel's goal is at the moment?
I think there's a lot of war is money. Israel could gain a lot from this war. It seems to the average person, yes, you'd lose a lot going into war. Money you have to put into supplies, into rebuilding things, but in general, like the aid that they receive from other countries, especially the United States, is massive. Very, very massive. And it's not shocking why the United States is so supportive of Israel. It's because basically it is a huge moneymaker for us. At least that's what I have
Yeah,
an opinion on.
we could go more into that. So the United States is obviously the biggest donor to Israel, and we've given them the most military aid by far out of any country.
Right.
Why do you think the United States is so invested in Israel?
Um,
Specifically, the United States government.
I feel like I know the answer to that, but I'm gonna give the wrong one. I know that we make a lot of money off of the birthright passage that a lot of Jewish people take, that are from the United States. But I can't say that that's a large enough reason to do that. But I do know that Israel's a big political wage, and also the military that Israel has is also beneficial to the American government as well. Um, but maybe I feel I'm not well versed enough in the exact specifics as to why, and I could do more research on that.
Do you think American companies make a lot of money
Money, yes.
selling weapons to Israel?
Yes, I do.
Do you think those companies have connections with the politicians?
Absolutely, because it seems that politics in America was built on business almost. Like Donald Trump being the president of the United States, being a businessman. I mean, we've had plenty of presidents who were businessmen instead of just like politicians. Sorry, not plenty, but we've had a few, at least. And when both of those things get wrapped up, it's like you're not really doing anything for the actual good of the people. I'm a firm believer that anybody who actually does want to do good things for people never makes it far enough to even get voted into anything. Because I think to get to certain points of position, you have to do bad things. Because a lot of people agree with those bad things, unfortunately. Like, for instance, I mean, I saw a lot of pro-Israel stuff just at the airport. And I have family who works in the airport. And so, when I saw the signs, I was like, I want to say, fuck your sign. Because, like, you have absolutely no idea what you're supporting. You're just supporting the death of innocent individuals. But I couldn't because, family who works in the airport. And if I say something, then that could reflect badly. And it all just intertwines. And so there's no separation between morality and politics and business. It's just all like a jumbled mess,
Yeah,
especially with companies,
especially.
corporations, large
If
corporations.
you were to try to start a conversation, a good faith conversation, with a firm Israeli supporter, how would you go about doing that?
It would be very difficult because in my experience that I've had, I haven't had many conversations with Israeli supporters just because I don't think that the people I surround myself with are typically the kind of people that would support that. But in the few instances I have, it has gotten very heated very quickly because it's like difficult to approach it when somebody feels that they are just completely and absolutely just in every single thing that they are like saying, or any piece of information that they could present to you, they know more than you, or you're wrong because this is how I feel about it, or I'm from Israel, I'm Israeli, I've seen I've personally been affected by this, yada 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 yada. Even though I have Palestinian friends who I've seen videos, like I said, who are like struggling to try and get out of the country, to flee, because even safe zones that the Israeli government marked as safe zones are being bombed. And it's just like it's very clear what they're doing.
Do you think when we as Americans look at it as a point of, oh, I'm an Israel supporter. Oh, I'm a Palestinian supporter. Do you think that adds unnecessary adversarialness to the conversation?
Um, yes and no. Because I think that you could go into it just saying, I'm a human rights supporter. I don't agree with what Hamas did. Um, and I don't agree with the deaths of the innocent Israeli people. Obviously, I don't agree with the deaths of the innocent Palestinians. I don't agree with the now deaths of, is it Lebanese or the Lebanese citizens as well. And so I guess when you bring like more nuance into it and say, "Oh, I'm pro-Israel" or "I'm pro-Palestine," it could definitely like automatically kind of set the tone of the conversation beforehand. I've just personally had a difficult experience trying to have any sort of conversation with somebody who automatically tells me they're pro-Israel, because it's just really hard to unwork that mindset, because typically it comes from like they have family or they just have morality differences than I do, you know?
Gotcha. Imagine me.
Okay.
Imagine I'm an Israel supporter, very
Okay.
avid Israel supporter. Tell me something that would open up my mind to your side of the conversation.
That's a really good question.
Something you would really like to convey that you think might get through.
If you have been affected by the airstrike that children died from, if you are so strong on your stance that Hamas beheaded babies, Hamas committed terrorist acts against the Israeli people, then you are pro-life, for the sense that you care about the being and the well-being of protecting civilians against terrorist groups. So, if that's true, then you'd also advocate for the rights to protect Palestinians against terrorist groups, which in this case happens to be the IDF. And I'm not saying that Israel as a country, and just because you're born there, you are a bad person. It has absolutely nothing to do with it, because no one can control where they're born. But at the end of the day, you can't be pro-Israel and say I'm pro-life, because it's just not true if you're not for both sides.
Wow. All right. I
That's
guess I'll
what
just ask you one last question. Where do you get your news from? And then how often do you check that source? And what to what extent does social media influence your information consumption?
Oh gosh. Okay. I get my news from all over the place. I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, I have a newspaper article that I read that I know is unbiased and I know is perfectly like has the right rhetoric that I'm looking for, because that's absolutely not the case. And I do consume a lot of news, especially from social media, because I'm 20, I'm in college, and I have a phone. like, and I will say that social media has both good and negative effects on this, because it can you spread a lot of propaganda for one, but you can also spread a lot of positive information. And I say at the end of the day, when you're reading these things, whether it's posted by a liberal site, a leftist site, a communist site, a Republican site, whatever, it's your due diligence to look into the information, do your own research after you're presented with it, and find the facts and come up to the conclusions. Like, your conclusions need to be your own, not just what someone laid out for you. So I can see this percentage, I can see this statistic all day long, but at the end of the day, I need to do the research to actually figure out how I feel towards the situation.
Absolutely. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
dude.